Welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
It's the Rock Newman Show.
Hi, this is Mia. So are we going to be able to hang out today? Because, well, I have a party to go to, so I was wondering if we could squeeze something in. I love you. Bye.
Welcome back to the final hour of the Rock Newman Show today, Saturday, March the 2nd, 2013. I've got a lot of dates to talk about here. This segment of the show is about voting rights. And I really do hope that unless you have something critically important to do, that you would lend an ear and stay tuned. We think what we have is some important things to say about voting rights. The telephone number to call to the Rock Newman Show is 202-889-9797. I really do want to hear your voice. I'm going to give that number out one more time, 202-889-9797. Again, in this hour, we're going to be talking about voting rights and the assault that is pending. So let me start here with just a little bit of information. On February 3rd, 1870, the 15th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified. Section 1 in that amendment states, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied on account of race or color or previous condition of servitude." That was February the 3rd, 1870. For nearly 100 years, the 15th Amendment was often ignored, abused, made into a joke by many states and the racist bigots that administered those states. The registrars who came up with any number of devious ways to prevent people of color, minorities, from being able to vote. Let's fast forward again. August the 6th, 1965. President Lyndon Johnson, at the time of what was considered to be one of the greatest presidential speeches of all time, his "We Shall Overcome" speech, signed into law on August the 6th, 1965, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and to better protect the rights of blacks and other minorities to vote. That law has greatly helped this attempt at democracy here in the United States. Let's fast forward one more time. And fast forward to this past week, February 27th, 2013, to be specific. After a summer and fall of schemes and shenanigans to suppress the vote, the Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia said that he wants to strike down the Voting Rights Act, particularly Section 5, which mandates that states, in order to change their voting practices and procedures, must appeal to the Department of Justice to put those changes into effect, to have them approved. He said that it is no longer needed, that now he views that as a racial entitlement. Are you kidding me, Justice Scalia? Justice Scalia, I want to talk to you directly from these studios here at We Act on Martin Luther King Avenue. I want to speak to you directly, Justice Scalia, and I want to invite you to take a ride to take a ride with me, Justice Scalia. In order for you to understand the ride that you're going to take, I want to give you a little bit about my history, a little bit about my background. Look at me, Justice Scalia. You wouldn't know when you first saw me if I were a black man or a white man, and that has been my history since the day I was born, Justice Scalia. Let me tell you my very first memory as a child of about 5 years old and the impact and the effect of racism. I remember my grandfather telling me, after I had made a quarter shining the third baseman's shoes from the local baseball team, I remember my grandfather, who was a light-skinned, fair-complexioned black man, I remember him telling me, "Don't you ever let me see you shine a nigger's shoes again." That's what my grandfather said. He was a light-skinned black man, but as a result of race and racism and the insidious effect of such, he, in his warped mind, as a light-skinned black person, was as hateful towards dark-skinned black people as the most virulent racist. The effect of race and racism. Justice Scalia, I want you to take a ride with me. That was when I was 5 years old. When I was 10 years old and I had just gotten my first shiny red new bike. I had a couple of hand-me-down bikes before, makeshift bikes, but I got a brand new bike, Justice Scalia. And my mother told me, "Yeah, you've got this new bike, but you have to stay in the yard. Do not go up the street, do not go up the highway, stay in the yard." When my mother said that, of course, that meant to me go out of the yard, and I did such. I went up about somewhere between a quarter and a half a mile, and there was a gentleman riding on this machine type thing that I'd never seen, Justice Scalia. And being the curious 10-year-old that I was, I went over and I said, "What is this?" And he said, "It's a riding lawnmower." And I noticed a pipe coming out of the back of this lawnmower, and it was white. And so I asked him, I said, "Is that something that is hot or cold?" Because it was white. It looked like my mother's refrigerator, the freezer part. So he said, "It's cold. Grab it." Being the curious, knuckle-headed 10-year-old kid that I was, Justice Scalia, I grabbed that pipe, and it was white hot. When I tell you this story, Justice Scalia, I remember the searing pain that was in my hand when I grabbed that hot pipe. Now, the gentleman's name, it was a white gentleman. His name was Mr. Bond. I later on found out that he was someone that didn't particularly care for black folks, didn't particularly care for those light-skinned black folks that lived there in the area. He knew who I was, an innocent 10-year-old child, and he had me to grab a white hot pipe. I can feel the pain as I tell this story now, Justice Scalia. Let me fast forward 3 years, Justice Scalia. When I was 13 years old, there was nothing more important to me than looking good in my baseball uniform. My junior high school passed out our uniforms, and at the time, this was 1965, there was the advent in the black community of the afro. And I had curly brown hair, and I picked it out and had a big old Angela Davis looking afro, trying to be cool and trying to be hip and trying to be down with the brothers and sisters, Justice Scalia. But it made it such that my cap didn't fit. No one had ever cut my hair before, Justice Scalia, except my uncle who lived next door to me. But at the school, instead of going to lunch that day, I went across the street because I saw a barbershop sign over there. I went, Justice Scalia, to get my hair cut off so my cap could fit because I wanted to look good in my baseball uniform. The gentleman sat me in the chair. He started to talk to me. He asked me what my name was. He asked me, where did I live? Who were my family members? And this white gentleman did that so he could determine if I was white or if I was black. And when he determined that I was black, he sharpened his razor. He sharpened that open knife kind of razor. And he took that razor, Justice Scalia, that white gentleman, took that razor and he put it under my throat. He pressed it to my throat, Justice Scalia. I was a scared 13-year-old little boy, Justice Scalia. I wanted to do really bad things to him. To that man that burned me, I vowed that I wanted to kill him one day for how badly his racist attitude and his behavior made me feel, how he hurt me. This man who put this razor blade under my throat, Justice Scalia, was a racist. And he was a racist like some racists who exist today. I'll get to that in a moment. When I was 16 years old, getting out of school for the summer, one of my white buddies on the baseball team, his father owned a moving company. And he said, hey, Rock's the star of the team, and he wants to work with us for the summer. His father said, oh, great. We need good help, some people with some strong backs. So on Friday, I went up to the office. I got the uniform to work for this particular company, Justice Scalia. When I get reported to work on Monday morning, I was told I had to turn the uniform in, Justice Scalia. They had found out that although I looked like a white boy, I was a black kid. Justice Scalia, that's when I was 16 years old. Let's move to when I was 40 years old. In the offices of Home Box Office, Time Warner, 42nd and 6th Avenue, Avenue of the Americas. I was negotiating a deal for the heavyweight champion of the world, who we had the good sense to bring through the ranks, and he was an independent agent. We were a free agent without a contract with a TV network or a hotel casino. Was negotiating a deal. We're sitting around the table, Justice Scalia. I was the only black man amongst my Jewish brothers and some of the other white brothers who were in the room. At one point, we got the collective deal up to about $70 million over a period of time, that if the fighter, Riddick Big Daddy Bo, was victorious, it would be a $70 million package. And I told him it wasn't enough, Justice Scalia. And at that point, one of the gentlemen in the room asked me if he could call timeout and step outside. And I said, it was a little bit strange, but okay. So the gentleman took me outside. One of the white brothers took me outside, and he said, what is wrong with you? I said, what do you mean, what is wrong with me? He said, $70 million, this $70 million package, that's more money than you ever dreamed of. Justice Scalia, that broke my heart. I thought I was a toughened dude at 40 years old, had been through the ranks, but that really hurt my feelings. And I asked him, I said, I would never say to you what your dreams are. How do you prescribe to me what my dreams are? Tell me I'm a nut. Tell me I'm not a good businessman. Tell me all of those things, but don't tell me the limits of my dreams. Justice Scalia, he told me the limits of my dreams. 2 weeks ago, Justice Scalia, I'm residing in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. I reside at National Harbor. I live on the 4th floor. And I got on the elevator with a quite attractive white lady, very well dressed, probably going to her work job. I asked her how she liked living at National Harbor, Justice Scalia. She's quite the polished woman, quite articulate. And she says, well, I think I'm going to be moving. And I said, why? She's looked around, although it was just the two of us on the elevator. They always look around to make sure that they're talking to someone safe. And she saw me as being safe, Justice Scalia, 2 weeks ago. Not 1965, not 1870, not 1932, 2 weeks ago. And she said, well, I think I'm moving. And after she looked around, she said, because there's a little too much diversity here. Little too much diversity, Justice Scalia. You say you want to strike down the Voting Rights Act because it's a racial entitlement, and I will say to you, it's a racial requirement. Take a ride with me, Justice Scalia. Take a ride with me. November the 6th, 2012, Barack Obama won his second term to be president. 2 days later, I took off on a solo journey driving from Las Vegas to Washington, D.C., Justice Scalia. That route takes me as follows. I leave out of Nevada and I go into Arizona. In Arizona, at one point, I stopped to get gas, and I just kind of wanted to gauge the reaction of people about Obama winning a second term. So I would ask in quite the exaggerated Southern drawl, Justice Scalia, I would say at a gas pump or in the bathroom or at the counter to get something to drink or something to eat, I would say in that Southern drawl, can you believe Obama won another term? Once in Arizona, someone said, I can't believe that nigger is back in office, Justice Scalia. I came through Arizona and went into New Mexico. I stopped in New Mexico, tried the same thing and didn't really hear anything. Didn't hear anything like that back. Just was a normal conversation. But in Oklahoma, I had to stop twice. And I asked the same question. Can you believe Obama is in for a second term? Twice on my journey, twice the nigger word was uttered. Can't believe that nigger got back in there. That one of them called him a baboon nigger in Oklahoma. Before I got to Oklahoma, I'm getting my states mixed up. I was in Texas. Same thing. Justice Scalia, these are people in 2012 and 2013 who might be working in the registrar's office where a minority wants to try to vote. And you're going to tell me we don't need the Voting Rights Act because racism is a thing gone by? Take a ride with me, Justice Scalia. I came out of Texas and Oklahoma and went into Arkansas. Twice there, the word nigger was used, Justice Scalia. These weren't all pickup truck rednecks, Justice Scalia. Twice nigger was used. Justice Scalia, in Tennessee, as we came through, in Virginia. Take a ride with me, Justice Scalia. Coming up through Virginia, twice I heard the nigger word when I asked that question about Obama. I'm the person that you need to talk to, Justice Scalia. I would invite you to leave the comfort of your buddy, that non-black man named Clarence Thomas, your buddy on the Supreme Court. his wedding when he married his white wife was Rush Limbaugh, a bigot of the first order, Justice Scalia. So you're not really talking to a black man that represents black people when you talk to Judge Thomas. Come and take a ride with me. I invite you to do so. I'm going back across the country. And I just want you to listen in and tell me after you finish your ride with me that the Voting Rights Act is all about racial entitlement now and not racial requirement. I'll have my office to call your office to make sure that you have all of the ways to get in touch with me, Justice Scalia. In the meantime, before you vote to strike down the Voting Rights Act and its provisions from 1965, Justice Scalia, I ask you to come take a ride with me.